Students, this video is about our second lab for historical geology. We're going to be looking at sedimentary rocks, and we're going to look at 16 different sedimentary rock samples, and we're going to fill in this chart. So once you're done filling in this chart, fill in all the spaces here, then you want to hand it in by Wednesday on January the 27th by 7 p.m. You can use your lab manual. Your lab manual has most of the information you need is going to be in your lab manual. You can also use your textbook as a reference, but watch these 4 videos before you try and complete this lab. Your job is to identify 16 different sedimentary rocks. You got 1 Flint, 1 Arkose, 1 Quartz Sandstone, 2 Limestones, 2 Siltstones, a Breccia, a Chert, C-H-E-R-T, a Conglomerate, 1 bituminous coal, 2 shales, 1 chalk sample, 1 dolostone sample, and 1 coquina sample. And these 16 rocks are going to be labeled 1 through 16. You got to figure out which is which, but it's one of these 16 rocks here, and you want to put the name of the rocks here. But before you get to the name of the rock, you need to try and figure out the characteristics of each of the different sedimentary rocks. Once again, use your lab manual. It's really good, the part on sedimentary rocks, and also watch those videos. As far as texture goes, there's 3 possible textures for the sedimentary rocks. You can write detrital, and the other word for detrital is clastic. So if you see someone referred to a texture as clastic, it means the same thing as detrital. Second type of texture is chemical, and the third is biological, which is also called organic or biochemical or bioclastic. But we're going to use the 3 terms detrital, chemical, and biological. Detrital sedimentary rocks are made of chunks of pre-existing rock that have been weathered away, so have been broken down into particles that are gravel, sand, silt, or clay sized. So detrital sedimentary rocks, you will also want to write the grain size. Is it gravel, sand, silt, or clay? Gravel is the biggest, and it's like the size of a little pebble, or the gravel on the bottom of an aquarium. Sand, you've seen sand before on the beach or in a river. So sand grains, you can see them. Smaller than sand is silt, S-I-L-T. And silt, you can't really see it, but it has a gritty feel to it. It feels gritty. Last but not least is the smallest grain size, which is clay, and that's so fine that it makes flat layers, and flat layers to it. And so if it's a detrital sedimentary rock, you need to know the grain size, list the grain size. For the other sedimentary rocks that are not detrital, you don't need to list the grain size. You can list it if you want to, but you don't have to. If the sedimentary rock has the mineral calcite in it, you want to write yes. And if it doesn't have it, you want to write no. And the easy way to tell is if a rock has the mineral calcite in it, and you drop some of this 1 molar hydrochloric acid on it, it will fizz, it will bubble. If it does not bubble, it does not have the mineral calcite in it. Then once you figure out what the name of the rock is, you want to write it down here. Again, here's the 16 possible rocks. And then you want to go into your lab manual. There's a part on depositional environments, which shows where did that sedimentary rock form. So not only do we want to name that sedimentary rock, we want to figure out where did it form. Did it form in the shallow ocean? Did it form in the deep ocean? Did it form by glaciers? Did it form in a swamp or a lagoon or a lake? In your lab manual, there's a picture there, and I don't have the lab manual here, but go look under sedimentary rocks in your lab manual. There's a picture showing the depositional environments for all of the sedimentary rocks. So you want to figure out the depositional environment for all of your 16 sedimentary rocks. 2 weeks from now, we're going to have a quiz. It'll be on the metric system, sedimentary rocks, and our third lab. I haven't figured out what the third lab is yet, but on the quiz 2 weeks from now, I'm going to give you actual sedimentary rocks, and then you're going to have to try and figure out the name of the rock and the texture of the rock, depositional environment of the rock, and does it contain calcite or not. But you're going to get actual rock samples for the lab quiz. Each group's going to get a different bunch of sedimentary rocks to pick up at my house. It's important to note that you can't just look at a rock and just figure out what it is. You got to look at its texture, and if it's detrital, it's the size of the particles, and does it have calcite in it? And I'm going to give you a few hints before we get started. Flint, the sedimentary rock Flint, F-L-I-N-T, Flint. The hint I have for you on that one is it is a dark colored rock, and the Indians used to use it to make arrowheads, so it's very sharp. Next one is Arkose, A-R-K-O-S-E. An Arkose is a coarse red sandstone. So it's reddish in color, and it's coarse. That means it's got sand, but the sand is relatively big sand in there. So big sand grains in a red sandstone. Next one's called Quartz Sandstone. Next sedimentary rock we need to learn about is Quartz Sandstone. It's made of the mineral quartz. Quartz will scratch glass, and we have a piece of glass to test for that. And you can use this on a quiz too. I'll give you a piece of glass. And Quartz Sandstone is made of quartz sand grains. Next rock is called Limestone, L-I-M-E-S-T-O-N-E. We've got 2 limestones to look at today, to identify today. You can't identify limestone based on color. It comes in so many different colors. It comes in dark gray, light gray, white, beige, red. So how do you identify limestone? Limestone is made of the mineral calcite. So if you drop acid on the rock, it could be a limestone. All limestones will react with acid. But just because a rock reacts with acid does not mean it's a limestone. I'll repeat that. All limestones are made of calcite, so all limestones will react with acid. But there are also other sedimentary rocks that will react with acid. So limestones are not made up of real seashells, but they may contain fossil seashells, and they may contain no fossils. Limestone, you cannot write with it, such as another sedimentary rock we're going to look at that also has calcite called chalk, which you can write on the blackboard with. Next rock is called Siltstone, S-I-L-T-S-T-O-N-E. Siltstone is made of silt. Silt particles are smaller than sand particles, and it has sort of a gritty feel to it when you touch it, and it comes off on your fingers if you rub it hard because the particles are smaller than sand. Siltstones come in many colors. So to identify things like quartz sandstone and siltstone, you got to look at the size of the particles, not the color of the particles. Siltstones do not have calcite in it, so they will not react with acid. Next one I'll give you a hint about is Breccia, B-R-E-C-C-I-A. Breccia has angular or jagged pebbles in it. Doesn't matter what color those pebbles are. If they're angular and jagged, it's a Breccia. And you can look at pictures of Breccia in your lab manual in your textbook or online. Next rock is called, sedimentary rock is called Chert, C-H-E-R-T, Chert. If you're from New York, it's called Choit. But Chert is a light-colored very sharp igneous rock, and you could scratch glass with it. Chert. It's light in color. So basically Flint, which I talked about earlier on, is just a dark colored chert, right? Next one we're going to talk about is called Conglomerate. Conglomerate. It has rounded pebbles in it. If the rock has rounded pebbles in it, it's a conglomerate. It doesn't matter what color those rounded pebbles are. Next one is bituminous coal. And if you're from Tennessee and you don't know what coal is, you should get coal put into your stocking this Christmas for not knowing what coal is. You know what coal looks like, so I'm not going to talk about that one. Shale, S-H-A-L-E, shale. Look at pictures in your lab manual, but it's a very thin sedimentary rock made of clay. Remember, all rocks made of gravel, sand, silt, or clay are detrital, and it can come in many different colors. Sometimes you can break it with your fingers, it's so weak. Next rock is called chalk, C-H-A-L-K. Chalk also will react with acid. So chalk will react with acid, so it has calcite in it, and you can write with it. Like you write on the board with it. Next rock is called coquina, C-O-Q-U-I-N-A, and it's made of seashells. Not fossils, but actual seashells. Some people call this rock the granola rock because it kind of looks like granola. So now let's try and do this. You got 16 sedimentary rocks to identify. And here they are, ladies and gentlemen. 16 different rocks. Here's rock number 1, 2, 3, 4. See if I can get this out so you can see it better. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now I'm going to take these rocks out one at a time so you can get a nice close look at it. And I'm also going to give you one hint for each of these rocks. First one is sample number 1. So you want to fill out your chart for sample number 1 over here. And let's take a look here. Sample number 1 is your first sedimentary rock. Look at the size of the particles in this rock. Ignore the brown color. Look at the size of the particles in that rock. This rock does scratch glass. It scratched the glass. Rock number 2 is this one. It's a dark red color. That's just paint there. Ignore that. It's rock number 2. Oh, by the way, before I move onwards and forwards, there's one rock that I forgot to mention, Dolostone, which is tan in color. And when you put acid on it, there'll be a gentle chemical reaction after a few seconds. So let me see here. Let's take a look at this one here. This is rock number 3. It can scratch glass. Scratch glass. When it scratches glass, it has quartz. Look how sharp it is. Rock number 3. Sample number 3. Sample number 4. Can you see clamshells in here? A lot of clamshells in here, aren't there? Sample number 4. Sample number 4 reacts with acid. See, it's bubbling when I put acid on it. Sample number 4 reacts to acid. Sample number 5 Look how flat this rock is. Look how small the particles are in this rock. I could break this rock with my fingers. Sample number 5. Sample number 6. It has a gritty feel to it. The particles are smaller than sand in rock number 6. They're smaller than sand. It has a gritty feel to it. When I put acid on it, there is no chemical reaction. For sample number 6, no chemical reaction. Sample number 6. Sample number 7. Note the color. When I put acid on this rock, nothing happens, and then there's a gentle chemical reaction. Number 7. Sedimentary rock sample number 7. Also figure out for each of these where did they form, the depositional environment. Sample number 8. Particles are smaller than sand. When I put acid on it, nothing happens. And if I touch this rock, and when you get your rocks for the quiz, touch them so you can do this test, it feels gritty. Sample number 8. Sample number 9. Those particles are bigger than sand. Bigger than sand. Are the particles angular or are they rounded? Angular means jagged, and rounded means smoother. Sample number 10. Note the color of this rock. This rock, if I rub it against glass, it's very sharp. It scratches glass. Sample number 10. This is the color right here of sample number 10. Sample number 11. Take a good close look at this rock. Sample number 11. And let's see what happens when I drop acid on it. It reacts very strongly to acid. It reacts strongly to acid. And I can see tiny little fossils in this rock. Sample number 11. Sample number 12. This is sample number 12. When I put acid on sample number 12, it reacts very strongly. Also, I could look how I can write with this. Well, let me see if I don't have a blackboard here, but if I had a blackboard here, I could write with this sample. Sample number 12. Sample number 13. Sample number 13, if I put acid on it, it reacts quite strongly. Sample number 13. Sample number 14 is this sample. See I don't know if you can see it here, but look at it real careful. I think you can see that there are leaf impressions in here. It's very flat, made of very small particles. It's weak. I could break this with my fingers. Sample number 14. Flat looking rock. Sample number 15. Are the particles bigger than sand in this rock? Are they rounded or are they jagged? Sample number 15. Last but not least, if you weren't a good boy or girl this year, Santa Claus may have put this in your stocking. You can burn it and it'll keep your house warm for about 2 seconds. Sample number 16. Okay, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Try and fill out your chart and hand them in. And have fun. And I'll see you next time. As soon as I figure out how to do this. Let's see. Ugh, God, I don't know how to turn this stupid thing off.